Essential Astronomy for Vedic Astrology, the Zodiac. You must begin by understanding that the zodiac in Vedic astrology is not just a symbolic ring in the sky. It is the very skeleton upon which the entire body of Jyotish rests. You're looking at a 360-degree belt that stretches across the sky, the path traced by the sun, moon, and planets as they appear to move around the Earth. This belt, divided precisely into 12 equal parts of 30 degrees each, gives us the 12 zodiac signs from Aries to Pisces. But unlike Western astrology, which uses a moving frame of reference, Jyotish holds to the Nirayana chakra, a wheel that does not move. This sidereal or fixed star zodiac is central to the way you will calculate and interpret charts in Vedic astrology. You're not following the seasonal, tropical zodiac, which shifts over time due to the Earth's wobble. Instead, you are aligning your calculations with the stars themselves, those eternal markers that anchor the cosmic map. This is where the Sayana chakra, or tropical zodiac, parts ways from Vedic thought. While the tropical system resets Aries to the spring equinox, Jyotish insists that Aries is where the star Ashwini begins, rooted not in seasons, but in space. One of the things you must ponder deeply is that zodiac signs and constellations, while similarly named, are not the same thing in Jyotish. Yes, you'll read about Aries, Mesha, Taurus, Vrishabha, and so on, but these signs are geometric segments, not literal constellations. Each sign represents an equal 30 degrees arc of the ecliptic, pure and abstract. The constellations, or nakshatras, vary in size and shape and are used differently. So when someone says Mars is in Leo, they are referring to a segment of the sky that starts at 120 degrees and ends at 150 degrees, not a group of stars forming a lion. Now, here's something subtle yet vital. The Earth does not maintain a perfectly fixed orientation in space. Over thousands of years, the point where the sun appears at the spring equinox slowly shifts westward. This is called the precession of the equinoxes. You see, this motion causes a gradual drift between the tropical and sidereal zodiacs, about 1 degree every 72 years, and this is where a Sanskrit term you must memorize comes into play. Ayanamsha. Ayanamsha, meaning portion of movement, is the numerical gap, measured in degrees, between the tropical and sidereal zodiacs at any given time. When you're casting a chart, you have to subtract this offset from the tropical positions to get the sidereal longitudes that Jyotish uses. This number isn't fixed either. It changes slightly, depending on which Ayanamsha value you adopt, Lahiri being the most commonly used in India. This technical precision reveals something profound about Jyotish. It is a science rooted in real astronomical observation, not abstract symbolism. When you align your calculations to the fixed stars, you're engaging in a spiritual astronomy that honors the eternal dharma woven into the sky. The Nirayana chakra becomes not just a mathematical grid, but a sacred wheel pointing to immutable truths. When you work with the sidereal zodiac, you are, in a sense, tuning into the cosmos as it actually appears from Earth, night after night. You're stepping into a lineage of rishis and astronomers who saw the stars not as distant orbs, but as points of spiritual resonance. The nakshatras, which decorate the sidereal zodiac, act like cosmic signposts, each with its own deity, energy, and lesson for your chart. You need to realize that this framework doesn't just help you build a chart, it sets the philosophical tone for your entire astrological approach. If your zodiac is rooted in a shifting seasonal cycle, you're looking at life through the lens of time. But if your zodiac is anchored to the fixed stars, you're seeing through the lens of timelessness. This is the deep shift in consciousness that Jyotish invites you into. So as you begin to chart planets, measure ascendants, or interpret dashas, remember this: the zodiac is your foundation, but it must be the right zodiac. The sidereal system, supported by the Ayanamsha and guided by nakshatras, gives you not just a mathematical model, but a sacred mirror, a still and silent wheel through which the karmic patterns of life can be read with clarity, devotion, and cosmic truth. Essential Astronomy for Vedic Astrology, the Ayanamsha. You've already learned that the sidereal zodiac in Jyotish is fixed to the stars, unlike the tropical zodiac of Western astrology, which shifts slowly over time. But how do you account for that shift when doing calculations? This is where the concept of Ayanamsha becomes absolutely crucial. It's a term that may look technical at first, but once you grasp its meaning, You'll realize it is the bridge between ancient stellar truth and present-day computation. Ayanamsha literally means portion of movement in Sanskrit. It refers to the angular distance between the starting point of the tropical zodiac, which is tied to the spring equinox, and the starting point of the sidereal zodiac, which is anchored to a fixed star, typically close to Rāśi or Chitra. This distance grows steadily due to a phenomenon you must internalize: the precession of the equinoxes. Earth's axis slowly wobbles over thousands of years, causing the vernal equinox to drift westward along the ecliptic, about 1 degree every 72 years. One of the things you must deeply reflect on is that the tropical and sidereal zodiacs were once perfectly aligned. That happened long ago, depending on which tradition you consult. The value of the Ayanamsha depends entirely on when you assume this alignment last occurred. For instance, the Lahiri Ayanamsha assumes this happened in 285 AD. Other schools use different dates and therefore slightly different values. This isn't a trivial debate. It changes the entire zodiacal framework of a chart by a few degrees, which can move planets from one sign or nakshatra to another. So when you're calculating planetary positions, you have to subtract the Ayanamsha from the tropical longitude of each planet to obtain its sidereal position. If you're doing manual calculations, this is one of the most delicate yet essential steps. Modern software usually automates this for you, but you must still know what Ayanamsha value the program is using. Otherwise, your interpretations may be based on a completely different zodiac than the one you think you're using. This is why consistency is everything in Jyotish. You must choose your Ayanamsha and stick to it. It is not about who is right or wrong, but about alignment, internal and external. The Lahiri Ayanamsha is most widely accepted across India and by the government of India itself. But you will also hear of Raman, Krishnamurti, Fagan Bradley, and others. Some are more astronomically inclined, others more traditional. What matters is that once you align with a particular system, your entire charting method follows suit like a thread in a woven tapestry. One of the philosophical insights you gain through this is the understanding that Jyotish is not just an observational science. It's a science of transmission. The values we use today, like the precise Ayanamsha, are inherited from a lineage of seers, scholars, and mathematicians. This is where observation blends into tradition. Your calculation isn't just arithmetic. It's an act of honoring the accumulated precision of centuries of wisdom. You must also understand that the Ayanamsha is not merely a correction. It is a marker of time's drift, of how the Earth's subtle changes influence the very coordinates we use to map karma. It reminds you that time is not static, and neither is your chart. Your birth chart is a freeze frame, yes, but the backdrop against which it was drawn is constantly shifting, cosmically breathing. That tiny number, 20 degrees, 23 degrees, whatever it is, carries within it the entire sweep of millennia. So when you enter this world of Vedic astrology, you are stepping into a living science that respects both exactness and legacy. The Ayanamsha, then, is more than a technical term. It is the silent thread that ties together Earth's movement, stellar fixity, and the rhythm of cosmic time. Understanding it allows you to see Jyotish not as a rigid dogma, but as a harmonized symphony of astronomy, intuition, and tradition, precise and eternal, just like the stars it seeks to measure. Let me now take you deeper into the actual methods of calculating the Ayanamsha, because once you understand their philosophical and astronomical differences, you'll see how each reflects a unique vision of cosmic alignment. You need this clarity if you are ever to become a serious practitioner or teacher of Jyotish. The Lahiri Ayanamsha, as I mentioned earlier, is the most widely accepted and used today in India. It was officially adopted by the government of India in 1955 based on recommendations from a calendar reform committee led by N.C. Lahiri. This method fixes the beginning of the Sidereal Zodiac to the point where the star Chitra, Spica, is exactly at 180 degrees. That is, when the sun is at 0 degrees Sidereal Aries, Chitra is at 180 degrees in the zodiac. This gives a reference point that connects the fixed stars to the zodiacal wheel with scientific and astronomical rigor. If you're working with modern software or published ephemerides in India, chances are you're working with the Lahiri system unless otherwise stated. But Lahiri is not the only system. There's also the Raman Ayanamsha, proposed by Dr. B.V. Raman, a pioneering modern astrologer and researcher, who believed that the 0 point of the Sidereal Zodiac should be aligned with a different fixed star, Revati. He argued for a slightly different reference year for the alignment of sidereal and tropical zodiacs, leading to a variation of about 2 to 3 degrees from Lahiri in some cases. This may not sound like much, but in Jyotish, even a few degrees can move a planet to a different sign or nakshatra, changing its entire interpretive meaning. Then there's the Krishnamurti Ayanamsha, used in the KP Krishnamurti Paddhati system of astrology. KP astrology is known for its extreme precision and timing focus. The Krishnamurti Ayanamsha slightly differs from Lahiri and is used with a unique house system based on Placidus-style divisions. KP astrologers use it to time events down to the day or even hour with startling accuracy. This system appeals to those who want quantifiable, predictive precision, but it's based on an entirely different interpretive framework, so you must use it with its own rules, not mix it with classical Parasari Jyotish. You'll also come across Fagan-Bradley Ayana, mostly used in Western sidereal astrology. This system places the 0 point of Aries 24 degrees ahead of the tropical equinox as of the mid-20th century. It aligns with Aldebaran at 15 degrees Taurus and Antares at 15 degrees Scorpio, anchoring the zodiac with other fixed stars. Though not widely used in India, it illustrates that Ayanamsha calculation is a global and cross-cultural concern, not confined to Indian astrology. A few other notable methods include Yukteswar Ayanamsha, based on the teachings of Swami Sri Yukteswar, who argued that precession itself is not constant and cyclical, with a fixed 24,000-year duration. His views are more spiritual and metaphysical than purely astronomical, and appeal to those exploring astrology within the framework of cosmic yugas. Sasanian or Hipparchus-based Ayanamshas, found in older Persian and Hellenistic systems, though rarely used in modern Jyotish. What does this mean for you, practically? It means you need to choose your Ayanamsha not arbitrarily, but with awareness. Each system reflects not just an astronomical hypothesis, but a spiritual orientation. Are you aligned with mainstream Indian tradition? Then use Lahiri. Are you diving into KP astrology? Stick with Krishnamurti. Are you experimenting with a fusion of East and West? Then Fagan-Bradley might serve you. But do not mix methods casually. The entire structure of your chart depends on this foundational choice. This reveals a deeper truth. Jyotish isn't just math, it's a system of continuity. Your calculations must preserve the thread of tradition you are weaving into. When you adopt an Ayanamsha, you're aligning not only with a technical method, but with a lineage, a philosophy, a cosmology. It's your compass in the sky. So choose wisely, use it consistently, and always know what it implies for every degree of your astrological insight. Essential astronomy for Vedic astrology, planetary motion. When you look up at the sky and track the movement of planets, what you're witnessing is not a simple, uniform motion. Jyotish asks you to become aware of two kinds of planetary movements: diurnal motion and proper motion, and to understand how each reveals different aspects of time, rhythm, and karma. These are not just astronomical curiosities. They're the very rhythms through which the grahas communicate their influence in your chart. First, let's talk about diurnal motion. This is the movement you notice every day. Planets, stars, and the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. But that's not because they're actually moving around the Earth. It's due to the Earth's own rotation on its axis. Every 24 hours, the sky appears to revolve around us, and this apparent east-to-west movement is called diurnal motion. It determines when a planet will rise above your local horizon, when it culminates overhead, and when it sets. This motion is crucial for calculating the lagna, or rising sign, which anchors the entire chart. Now contrast that with proper motion, the planet's actual movement through space as they orbit the sun. From our vantage point on Earth, this motion plays out differently. It's not circular in the sky, but along a narrow path known as the ecliptic, and it generally flows from west to east against the backdrop of the fixed stars. This is how a planet shifts from Aries to Taurus, or Cancer to Leo, over days, weeks, or months. Each planet has its own speed, Moon being the fastest, Saturn the slowest, and that pace adds texture to its influence in the chart. But one of the most fascinating and symbolically rich aspects of planetary motion is retrograde movement, known in Sanskrit as vakra, meaning crooked or twisted. From Earth, certain planets occasionally appear to stop, move backward through the zodiac for a time, and then resume forward motion. This is not an illusion of astrology. It's a natural outcome of planetary orbits and Earth's own changing position. Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all go retrograde regularly, and this period holds enormous astrological weight. Let's take Mars, for example. When retrograde, Mars reverses its normal progress through the signs and appears to loop backward. During this phase, its energies become more intense, internalized, or erratic. That's why Mars is often described as stubborn or aggressive in retrograde. It's pressing its force inward, creating heat and resistance. When a planet is vakra, it doesn't lose power. In fact, it often gains a strange potency, as if its expression is forced to reconfigure itself in a compressed karmic form. Each planet's retrograde motion happens on its own rhythm, and Jyotish takes this very seriously. A retrograde Saturn will delay and test. A retrograde Mercury will cause mental revisions or communication challenges. But don't just take these as cliché meanings, you must tie them to the whole chart, the house the planet occupies, its sign, and its aspects. Retrogression always marks a karmic emphasis, a moment where the normal flow is interrupted and some inner reckoning is taking place. The chapter also provides you with average speeds for each planet, how many degrees they cover per day, and how long they take to move through a sign. This is more than trivia. When you know that Saturn spends 2.5 years in one sign, while the moon stays just 2.25 days, you begin to see how each graha works on a different time scale. Slow-moving planets carry generational themes, while faster ones govern mood, thoughts, and daily circumstances. What you're learning here is that Jyotish isn't making up metaphors, it's interpreting actual cosmic phenomena. A vakra planet is literally seen to reverse its path in the sky. A planet's speed does change from our Earth-based perspective. You're not projecting meaning onto the heavens, you're translating a visible pattern into an inner truth. And this is what makes Jyotish both a science and a sacred art. It links observable motion to metaphysical insight. So when you read a chart, don't just say Mars is retrograde and stop there. Ask, what house is it in? What does it rule? Who aspects it? How long will this vakra motion last? The more you refine your understanding of planetary motion, the more precision and depth you'll bring to your interpretations. It is in these details, the speed, the direction, the timing, that the universe reveals its encoded messages. And as a Jyotishi, it is your job to listen. Essential Astronomy for Vedic Astrology, the houses of a horoscope. One of the first things you must understand in Jyotish is that while planets and signs move in predictable patterns across the sky, it is the lagna, the ascendant or rising sign, that makes the horoscope uniquely yours. It's not enough to know where Mars or Jupiter is in the sky. What truly matters is, where was the eastern horizon at the moment you were born? That's your Udaya Lagna, and it's the gateway through which the cosmic blueprint becomes your personal karmic map. At any given moment, one specific degree of the zodiac is rising in the east. That degree becomes the starting point of your birth chart, the first house. All other houses follow sequentially from there. So even if two people are born on the same day with the same planetary positions, their charts can look entirely different if their birth times differ. For example, if Mars is at 3 degrees Cancer, but for one person it's rising in the east, first house, and for another it's setting in the west, 7th house, the influence of Mars will express very differently. One internalized and assertive, the other relational and possibly confrontational. Now, Vedic astrology is rich with alternate lagna concepts. Sabda lagna, based on sound, Sparsha lagna, based on touch, Nama lagna, based on name, and others. These are used in special branches of Jyotish, like Prashna, Horary, or for deeper psychological insight. But in standard natal astrology, it is the Udaya lagna, also called Janma lagna, that dominates. This is the true ascendant based on the astronomical horizon at birth, and it's what orients your entire chart. Once you fix the lagna, the chart divides into 12 bhavas or houses. These are not the same as zodiac signs. While the signs are fixed slices of the ecliptic, Aries to Pisces, each 30 degrees, the houses shift depending on the time and place of birth. The first house always begins from the Lagna, and from there the rest follow in zodiacal order. Each house governs a specific area of life: self, wealth, siblings, home, creativity, health, marriage, death, dharma, karma, community, liberation. These aren't just categories, they're containers for karmic expression. Most traditional Jyotishes use whole sign houses, each house exactly 30 degrees, starting from the Lagna sign. This keeps the system clean, elegant, and intuitive. But if you go deeper into predictive or rectification work, you may encounter more complex systems like Shripati Bhava division, which allocates house cusps based on equal time division between key chart points. It adds nuance and precision, especially when planets sit close to house boundaries. Here's where you start to see Jyotish's philosophical elegance. The heavens are the same for everyone, but your place within them is defined by the rising point of the zodiac at your birth. That's why the Lagna is often called the door of destiny. It is the eastern horizon, the place where spirit meets matter, where the soul incarnates into time and space. Your ascendant sets the tone for your body, your temperament, and your karmic starting point. You must also appreciate that the Lagna is not just the first house, it is a living pulse in the chart. The strength, dignity, and placement of the Lagna Lord deeply influence your vitality, purpose, and overall life direction. If your Lagna is well supported, you have a firm anchor. If afflicted, your foundation may feel shaky, no matter how exalted your other planets are. So when you read a chart, begin at the Lagna. Let it orient your interpretation. Ask, what sign is rising? Who rules it? Where is that ruler placed? What aspects it? This will tell you how the individual enters the world and where their energy is anchored. Only then move to the other houses, using the Lagna as your constant point of reference. In Jyotish, the houses bring the abstract sky down to earth. They locate the stars within your life. And by tying each planetary influence to a house, you transform astronomy into psychology, karma into narrative, and the cosmos into a mirror. The Lagna is the hinge between heaven and earth, fate and free will, and it is your sacred compass in the sky. Essential astronomy for Vedic astrology, mapping a horoscope. Once you've calculated planetary longitudes and identified the Lagna, your task isn't finished. It's only just begun. In Jyotish, knowing where the planets are in the zodiac is only the first step. The second, and equally vital step, is mapping. You must take that abstract data and translate it into a visual form that expresses the karmic architecture of a person's life. This is where the Rāśi chart comes in, a distinct visual framework that roots the celestial in the cultural and spiritual grammar of Vedic astrology. Unlike Western astrology, which typically uses a circular chart to represent the sky, Jyotish uses a square or diamond-shaped diagram divided into 12 distinct boxes. Each of these represents one of the 12 zodiac signs, Rāśis, and by extension, each house. In North Indian style, these boxes are fixed in layout. The top central box is always the first house, the Lagna, and the rest follow in a counterclockwise direction. The chart is oriented not toward the sky's literal shape, but toward conceptual clarity, allowing you to instantly grasp planetary relationships and house rulerships. One of the first things you must learn to do is manually plot a horoscope, taking the planetary positions from your calculations or software and placing them into the correct signs and houses in the Rāśi chart. It may feel mechanical at first, but you'll soon realize this act is deeply meditative. It teaches you to see the chart as an integrated field rather than a list of planetary data points. It also sharpens your intuitive grasp of combinations and alignments, something no software can replace. In traditional Indian astrology, this act of mapping is seen as tying down the sky, rooting the vast, endless motion of the heavens into a fixed, readable form. That's why the Lagna is always placed in a fixed box. It becomes the anchor, the pivot, around which the rest of the chart takes shape. This is not arbitrary. It reflects the principle that the individual's perception of the cosmos begins at the moment of their birth, from their horizon outward. The chart becomes a spiritual diagram of that perspective. You'll also find regional variations in how charts are drawn. The North Indian chart fixes houses in place and rotates the signs. The South Indian chart fixes the signs in place and rotates the houses. There's also the East Indian Bengali style, more square and numerically coded. You don't need to master all of them, but you should become fluent in at least one, because your interpretive clarity will be rooted in your ability to visualize planetary relationships quickly and cleanly. The authors emphasize that Jyotish rests on three essential steps: calculation, mapping, and interpretation. Without mapping, you cannot see the whole. It is the bridge between technical knowledge and spiritual insight. A beautifully calculated chart that's poorly mapped will lead to scattered or shallow interpretation. A well-mapped chart, however, invites depth. It speaks to you. It whispers archetypes and karmic imprints. You must also appreciate that this traditional layout is not just a style. It's a symbolic language. The square or diamond form echoes the mandala, the sacred geometric diagram used in Indian spiritual traditions to represent the universe. Your Rāśi chart is your personal mandala, 12 fields through which consciousness flows, evolves, struggles, and returns to itself. When you draw it by hand, you're not just charting positions, you're honoring the sacred geometry of your incarnation. So take the time to learn manual chart drawing, even in this age of digital ease. Let your hands trace the paths the grahas have taken. Let your eyes get used to scanning a chart and intuitively seeing strength, weakness, flow, and obstruction. This visual literacy will become your most powerful tool as a Jyotishi. For it is in the act of mapping, of turning the cosmos into a form, that you truly begin to read the language of the stars.